We are here today with Dr. Kara Casimiro from Danbury Public Schools. How are you doing this morning?
How are you?
I'm doing well. So this is our IEI Stories from the Field, our superintendent stories from the field. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And we're going to jump right into our questions and really share some of the wonderful work that you're doing out in Danbury. So I tell you where I want to start. Being a former high school principal and high school teacher, your high school work has really been intriguing to me. So talk to me about, can you describe the specific moment or data that made you realize that you needed to fundamentally rethink the high school experience? I think a lot of people are thinking about that right now.
Sure. And it happened just pre-COVID, okay, where we started to really get concerned about student engagement levels and attendance. While it was not like it was, once COVID, post-COVID, we were starting to see a little bit of slippage there. And so we do a lot of instructional rounds in Danbury. We have a great team that goes in, and we were really wrestling with how do we transform what high school looks like, and we're really wrestling with that. We started thinking about different models and knew that we had to get out and go see what other high schools could be doing that looked differently, where they were getting results. So just before the pandemic, we put a team together to go down to the Academies of Nashville. And
Okay. See, yes.
what is this? This sounds different. Let's go take a look at it. We won a grant from the Bar Foundation, very thankful for, on high school transformation, to begin that exploration and to define what new teaching and learning could look like sort of in the coming age. So we took a team, had it all set up. I had the mayor, I had our health, I had our Chamber of Commerce, I had our principal, I had Board of Ed members from both parties. We had council people lined up. And this was, we were making the final plans at the end of February. And we started to get reports of some, this weird, strange virus that seems to be.
Right.
So
Wow.
just before we left, we lost half of the people on the trip because they had to stay back with what was going on. But we ended up going, just a handful of us, down to the academies, and we came back changed. We committed to action planning during the pandemic. We had closed, like everybody else, in early March. And we had a small team that worked throughout the pandemic while we were still doing all of the work to transform learning to online.
Yeah.
We had a 13-page action plan. We had set deadlines and goals. And we worked for several years to create a wall-to-wall academy model with the support of NCAC, which is the National Career College Coalition, under Jay Steele, and he helped to guide us that process.
So thinking about, where the academies are in Nashville, I mean, that's one of the areas I think that we all lived as as just a model, for the direction. What was it about the experience that said, this is what we need to move forward with?
The kids led the tour. The kids articulated their learning. We spoke to students who had already earned multiple industry recognized credentials and had job opportunities by the time that they were leaving. By the time they were graduating, they weren't the top A plus 4.0 students. They were all students had access to this, and they all had different levels of acceleration through that opportunity. That was what was particularly attractive to me. We had a small pocket academies. Both high schools have small pocket academies, but they're usually open on a competitive basis. Top 5 or 6% of the students get a chance to do that. We wanted something where everybody had an opportunity.
Yeah.
And to prepare students for kind of post-secondary in a real meaningful way, and to give them experience and exposure about different lines of work out there, career opportunities and trajectories. So we committed to providing this for all students. We also had a very successful CNA program.
Okay.
That was really our first experience with this. We can only take about 60 students every single year. We'd had several hundred that applied for it, so we had to turn students down, which always is heartbreaking because we knew what opportunities lied on the other side of that. Our students in a CNA program could go right to work when they graduate with a CNA certificate and a high school degree, or it makes them highly competitive to direct entry, allied nurse programs, medical programs. So our kids get scooped up and go off right into programs, or they can work part-time while they're going to college. So it could create a kind of a triple threat of opportunity.
Yeah. So you used the time during COVID, which was wise, to really plan and to get started. And so how are you measuring success right now?
So we really just got we built a building on top of this. So at the same time that this was happening, running parallel, we developed, we were in the process of creating a second campus because of overcrowding. So we had some opportunities to create very tailored specific labs. And so we had an opportunity to lay out what was going to be happening in both campuses. We used a lot of one-time ESSER money and ARPA money that was flowing from COVID to change the game, knowing that we'd have one shot to do.
That's right.
And so when we defined what success was, it was how many opportunities can we provide students on the other end of this. So outside of your typical, the graduation rates, the whether or not students are engaged, graduation, SAT scores, all of those are the typical things that everyone is measuring the same type of things. In addition to that, how many industry recognized can students persist through and earn and get credit for? That's going to provide a nice kicker when they graduate. Seal of biliteracy.
Oh, yes.
Highly encouraging bilingualism in our district. We have 36% of our students are second language learners. Actually, it's more than that. We have 65% Hispanic. It is an asset and a gift to go out into the work world, being literate in two languages.
Right.
And we know that's an asset in the world of work. So those are success points. The number of internships and job shadowing opportunities, the number of kids that we can get visiting college campuses or other work-related programs that are not college. So as many of those, we have college and career fairs, making sure that all of our kids are participating in those and they engage with employers prior to graduating so they know what people are looking for by the time they leave, so they could focus on that and be motivated in high school.
Yeah. So I have to say to Dr. Adrian Battle, if you're actually seeing this, who's the superintendent of Nashville, who they're just doing some amazing work that they not really set it out for us, the ASA. And so thank you so much. And this work that you're doing in Nashville has really helped plant a seed, not just in Nashville, but across the country. So I had to do that right now. Shout out to Adrian. So really,
all the way with it.
yes, I love it. So thinking about just really when we talk about wall to wall, what makes your academy model different from other systems implementing similar approaches?
Sure. So I don't know that. So in addition to Nashville was really our core, what we wanted it to look like. But we visited many other places around the country, and that's again fortunate through the Bar Foundation that we were able to have the funds to take people out. 'Cause, educators don't get out very often. We saw Cherry Creek Innovation Center. We saw places out in Grand Island, Nebraska. We went to Charleston. It's incredible models of how the community wraps its arms around the school system and is embedded with industry there. And that is critical. And so for us, there's nothing like this in the Northeast. So in the Northeast, this may be happening in like in Nashville and maybe a couple other places, but by and large in New England is very traditional, very rigid, very fixed on what traditional New England college looks like, right? And so trying to break that model was a little bit different for folks to hear. But what's different about us is that every student has the opportunity. And most high schools in Connecticut have academies. It's not a novel idea to have an academy with a focus and a theme. For us, it is, we have 8 academies.
Okay.
All right. And 7 career-focused ones, 1 exploration academy for freshmen, and 21 pathways. And our students get to rank, order, choose at the end of their freshman year, which by passion, not by grade point average, which academy they want to be part of. And this year we had 94% of our students got their first 3 choices.
Oh, nice.
21 pathways. So already out of the gate, there's a student motivation factor involved. So that's a win right there. I'm here because I choose to be here. We did the same thing with our staff. We allowed them to choose when we developed the model which academy they wanted to align themselves with. They have former careers, they have passions, they have skills and expertise beyond the subject matter that they're skilled in that they can use to integrate and create interdisciplinary learning for students.
So you said something that was so key because sometimes I think that we forget that the students need to be engaged in what it is that they're doing. And so what are you learning about student engagement and how are you seeing factors like attendance and student willingness? What are you seeing across those things by students having so much choice into what it is, into the direction that they go?
When I go into we call them the CLABs, where the classroom and labs are happening in pathways, the engagement level is off the chain. Behavior, there are no behavior issues in high school classrooms. Why? Because the students are invested, the students are hands-on, they're experiencing, and it's very applicable to an end goal that they've set in the class, whether to be to become an EMT, and I'm going to pass that test, so I got to make sure I pay attention in this class because these are the things that are going to be I'm going to be asked to do or to perform as part of my assessment. And they're going off this history, social studies. They're still having, we have, our regular classes, but we're integrating some things in there. So there's more meaning making happening for students.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we were in class, we're like, what am I ever going to do with this information? Well, this is how this is all connect.
You do it right now. Right.
Do it right. Right. It's really about helping you really make deliberate connections in the classroom. And it's not, I had a couple of parents who are like, are we asking students to select a college major here before? And the answer is absolutely not. Right. This is an exposure and experience, and knowing what you don't want to do. For instance, you may participate in the CNA program and say, well, and I had a couple students who did this. I'm glad I did it, but now I know I
don't want to do that. Right. Right.
You just saved yourself 4 years of college tuition, right? To find out that, you didn't really care for the environment, or you don't like the sight of blood,
Yeah.
or you just wanted to be outdoors or do something different.
So so you have the $164 million Danbury High School, right? So how has that really, the campus, and it was designed to support your academy model. So so talk to me a little bit about that and how it's truly supported and how you're using it in the district. I've heard all about this beautiful place.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
So our high school is one high school, 2 campuses.
Okay.
And severely overcrowded. The main campus was severely overcrowded. But we had an opportunity to build a second campus, but we did it while we were developing this action plan to become a wall-to-wall academy model, which created opportunities to say, how do we really design these learning spaces to really serve the curriculum and the students with what we expect to happen in those rooms? And we literally did an incredible amount of research to, for example, when we created the CNA room, when we created some of our specialty labs in our ENT room, we designed it to specs. So we have an ambulance bus inside a very large classroom that is designed to sit.
I'm coming to visit.
Our hospital, it's like a hospital wing.
Yeah.
There's a CNA and health program. We have a sports and human performance lab with the tables and benches that when you go to get taped up or worked on, all the equipment is there for students, and we were able to get 80% reimbursement by the state of Connecticut because when we wrote the educational design specs, if you write it in there in a way that serves the student's need, you can get the equipment paid for.
Yeah.
So we, once I found that out, I wrote like the Dickens with my team to get everything in there that we would need. And it was a huge learning curve and a big process, but we were able to create learning spaces that were intentional and created more opportunities than just your typical 4-wall high school classroom.
Yeah. As a high school principal now 15, 16 years ago, getting closer to 20, but I had a CNA program, a lot of academies at my school, and the CNA program was one of the ones when you talk about the ambulance in the room, I would always say the students want to come in and everybody wants to come in and doctor on people. Well, we want you to learn something first. So let's have the experience. So the wall-to-wall experience really makes it a positive one. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about this has really helped with attendance, with the student engagement and attendance, because in your district, as I understand, post-COVID, your absentee rate doubled during that time. So how have you really approached closing that gap? We're talking about high schools, but the gap was a pretty wide gap. So how have you approached that?
Sure. So the academies help with the attendance for sure, particularly at the high school level. But aside from the academy model, we embarked on a very intense process of knocking on doors, positive-based phone calls, reaching out in advance before attendance became a problem. So we started to notice a little slippage. Then we would make some proactive phone calls. How can I help you?
Right.
Is there an issue? How can I connect you to some services if transportation is an issue? A lot of our families are very challenged economically. And we live in a very densely populated immigrant communities. So we know, especially right now, that things are challenging as families. Yeah. So reaching out, we're trusted partners.
Yes.
At our school,
So important.
families trust us.
So important.
So it's important that they hear from us as the voice to make sure that they're comfortable and to bring students in. So we are now below the state average.
Oh, nice. Congratulations to you. Yeah.
Extremely.
Yeah.
We took advantage of some state funding and really turned that around. So I think the state's at about maybe 17%. We're at about 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're still
Kudos to you and your
high
team.
school, that ninth grade class.
Right,
So
right.
we're still working on that, but they did just receive an award for some notification from the state that they congratulations for really making a dent in our large high school and increasing the attendance rates.
Yeah. So you referenced that about 65% of your population, they're multilingual.
Right, they're Hispanic.
Hispanic.
And about 36% of our entire district
Understand. And are multilingual. Okay.
42 different languages.
So even with thinking about that 65%, how do you make certain, and you're in Connecticut, so how do you make certain that your population of educators looks like your population of students that are in the district?
We're always working on it. We are always working on it. And we have, a lot of our staff, we hire a lot of staff that looks like our students, but some of our staff they're not certified to teach bilingual education. So that is almost a bigger challenge for us. So how do we communicate with our students? And, it's like, step one, can we get educators that look and are reflective of our demographics? And then two, how do we get them certified so that we could really tap into assets and utilize assets? So one of the things we did was put a lot of money into actually, it wasn't even that much money. Actually, by the time we were done with it, was the best money we spent to certify our own educators.
Nice.
To get TESOL and bilingual certification. So it was a year-long program through an area RESC that supports different levels of different types of things. And we paid, I think it was about $5,000 a teacher to get certified in a content area. Especially hard to find a bilingual chemistry teacher, bilingual physics teacher. So we really asked our teachers to step forward and that we would pay for the certification. And if needed, we would be able to utilize them in a different capacity.
Right. So all of my experience has been working in large urban school districts. And so I definitely connect with the needs that we have for the students. But things are so different right now, especially with the population that you serve. So, and we talk about things just as educators around equity. And it's going to always be important to us to make certain that our students are getting what it is that they need. And so what advice would you give for other leaders as an urban superintendent in a very diverse population? What advice would you give for other leaders working in diverse, high poverty districts facing very similar challenges? And a lot of folks are facing challenges right now.
Sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that, some of our families don't care what's happening with their child. They didn't show up at the conference or they didn't attend some type of event. And I think it's incumbent upon us to reach out to families because a lot of our parents are working 3 jobs, 2 jobs. And it's not that they don't care. They care deeply. That's why they're working 2 or 3 jobs.
Right.
Hold it down. And a lot of our families are in survival mode. And we have to be very cognizant of how do we make this a little bit easier on the family to engage and to receive information. So I think really having it present in your mind all the time, how do we tee this up for families in a way that's going to help them support their child? Because they're there, they're working. That's why, they show up at that conference because they're working 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Great. Let's hold a Zoom meeting at a time that's convenient for them, maybe on a break or whatever. So we also have a great family engagement center.
Awesome.
And we coordinate all kinds of things. We get into things like, making sure people are connected with food trucks,
Right.
food insecurity in our district.
Right.
And when people think Connecticut, they don't think, oh, Connecticut.
Right.
You guys have everything.
My aunt lives in Boston. We're Brockton. Yeah.
Hey, worked at Brockton.
Yeah.
I've been to Brockton. He studied Brockton.
Yes.
Their high school, 4,000 students. They're very similar to Danbury.
Mm-hmm.
But we have great challenges in Connecticut, in Danbury in particular, and connecting food with families with food. We developed a big food pantry, network across some of our schools. We changed our lunch program to farm to table. So we partnered with a new lunch service to bring greater nutrition to our students, so we're not feeding them sugar in the morning,
Right.
and low carbs without protein. Helping families, like let's do this together. Like we know what our students need together. So the family engagement piece is important. We have a great adult education program in that we're partnering with. That they're our program, but they're working through the multiple communities. We offer ESL classes in our most populated schools right after school, so a parent in a trusted neighborhood and a trusted school can come and take second language.
Oh, wonderful.
Classes right there. We offer childcare services, bring food. So
So we're doing all the things.
All the
Make
things.
sure that
How can
the whole child and
the
the
parents
whole family, right?
also educated.
Yeah, wonderful.
Again, it's the team.
Wonderful. You know, as a 33-year veteran, I really respect it. I have to ask you this is my last question, but as a 33-year veteran, I truly respect the longevity in the role, right? And so thinking about you, this is is it 29th year in your district? And so what that means is that you've done like every job in your district, including now moving into the role of superintendent.
Yeah.
And so as you think about that, you know, what has really helped you to navigate your transition? I think you served about 6 months as interim before you became super, but you've been there for a long time.
Right.
And so what really helped you navigate that transition compared to, you know, someone that would have come from somewhere else?
Sure. Relationships. So really tapping on longstanding relationship. Fortunately, I have a lot of trust in the district, I feel. And, you know, coming into this role, your relationships change. Every time you switch a level or you have a different job, the relationship you had, even with your peers and your colleagues, becomes different. But when you have trust and you have openness, you're able to, you know, tap into those relationships even during hard times. And, you know, I'm very appreciative of really a new network of superintendents that have taken me in my first
Yes, that support is important, right?
practice. It's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm here with IEI today is because it's a network of who are experiencing similar challenges. But I think having a great team is everything, and really cultivating and nurturing those relationships along the way. You can get through anything with a good team.
And the support is so important. I'm glad that you lifted that, because one of the reasons that we're doing this work and doing the work that we're doing through IEI and telling these stories is because there is so much quality happening across our country. And there's so much support for that work and what that work looks like. And knowing that you're not going at it alone and that you have stories that can also help other people
Right.
is one of the reasons we do this. So thank you so much for sharing your story today on our Superintendent Stories and Stories from the Field. And so if there was one thing that you wanted to leave us with, what would it be?
Oh, high expectations for all. Opportunities for everybody. Yes, for the top 10% of your class. Yes, if you're not thinking about every student along the way, you're not doing the job right.
I'm the outcomes matters person. Outcomes matter. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We appreciate it.